What is up, everybody?
You like that start? You like that? Let's go with that. All right. There's the open. That's Jack welcoming you in. Episode 26, The Paradox of Sports. Been a busy day. Jack's been on the mic a lot today. Done a couple big interviews. Got the World Series starting tonight. We're going to get you to that interview here. 3-time World Series champion. Coming up shortly. But Jack, first off, game one, it might already be going. I think it started at 6. It might start at 7.
Yeah, it's going right now.
Who do you got? What's your prediction for the World Series?
The whole World Series?
Who's going to win the World Series? Hold up. Let's first say, before we do this, let's be fair. You're a big Dodgers homer. Your dad's a big Dodgers homer. So I'm sure you're going to pick the Dodgers, right?
Yeah, I'm going to pick the Dodgers.
You're a Dodger.
One,
because you're a homer. Okay. What other reasons?
And 2, they're just good.
Okay. You're picking the Dodgers.
They're going to win in... It's not going to be a Game 7, Game 6 thing, but it's not going to be a sweep either. I'm saying Dodgers win in 5.
Dodgers win in 5. Okay, I'm going to say Rays in 6. That is my prediction. But let's just not screw around. Okay, we got a phenomenal interview that you did amazing with. So let's not screw around. Let's go ahead and just you want to introduce our interview tonight?
Yeah, let's just not screw around and do this, because why would we screw around? Oh, wait, I'm screwing around right now. Sorry. Introducing 3-time World Series champion, probable future Hall of Famer, Curt Schilling.
Thanks for having me, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, Jack. Take it away.
Being from Alaska, there was not much baseball being played. What was your childhood like?
So I was born in Alaska. My dad was in the Army, so we moved around a lot. But I moved. I was born in when I was probably 6 or 7 years old. We moved around. I ended up in Arizona, which is where I grew up. And Arizona being a really warm weather state, I got to play. I played baseball year round for most of my childhood.
You went to Shadow Mountain High School. Talk about your sports career there. Did you play other sports than baseball?
I did. I played other sports. Funny story, though. I didn't make the varsity baseball team until I was a senior. I got cut my freshman, sophomore, and junior year and did not play varsity baseball until I was a senior in high school. But we had a really good high school team. We were nationally ranked. And I had a good coach, really good coach. Who was a former minor league baseball player, but high school baseball was kind of the beginning for me from a standpoint of getting noticed.
Well, and just kind of going off of that, you've heard stories about Michael Jordan getting cut from his basketball team as a freshman. Yeah. And it's crazy, you having the career that you did, but not getting the chance to really start playing till you were a senior in high school. Was it just when you physically peaked, or was it just you needed time to kind of develop the mechanics and everything it takes to be a baseball player?
I was a third baseman most of my life, and obviously I pitched, but I played more third base than anything. And there was a lot of different things going on. I think that I had a personality conflict or difference with the coach. But ultimately, it was actually one of the more important stories of my life was after getting cut my junior year, a bunch of really good friends of mine whose parents were a little bit more influential than most, they put in a petition together to have the coach fired. And they came to my dad, and my dad said, I don't know what you guys are doing, but I'm going to let my son grow up and become a man on his own. I mean, if he can't make the team, then that's on him. If there's a problem with his coach or his boss, he's going to work for people he doesn't like. He's going to work with people he disagrees with. That's on him to fix it. And if he's good enough, he'll make the team. And so, I mean, it was an incredible learning experience for me. And I did. And the next year I went it was between my junior and senior year. I went to a Cincinnati Reds tryout camp, and I lied about my age so I could get in. And there was a conversation there, and there was an interest in possibly signing me. And then I had to come clean and tell them that I was only 17. And so that there was a little article in the paper about it, and that kind of was where it all took off.
In college, you did not have much traveling to do from high school when you attended Yavapai College. Talk about your baseball career there.
So I went away to junior college for 1 year, and we were, again, a nationally ranked team. I was probably in all of my life, I would rank one of the 3 or 4 best teams, most enjoyable years of my life. Yavapai was certainly one of them. The most important thing I think about Yavapai for me was that I had to live away from home, because I don't think if I hadn't done that, I don't think I would have made it to the big leagues if I hadn't spent a year away from home before I played professional baseball, because there's so much to learn. There's so many things and so many lessons and so many scenarios you need to go through before you're going through it as a professional athlete to learn and understand. And, that first morning you wake up and the whole day is yours to plan out, can be a good thing or a bad thing. And for me, it wasn't a really good thing when I first started doing it, because I didn't manage my time. And I learned those lessons there, and I played for a coach and I'm still very close friends with most of that team, some 40 years later. But my coach, Dave Dangler, was a hugely influential person in my life, and somebody that helped me understand that I was transitioning away from baseball as a recreational sport to a job. And, that was a really important year. Like I said, we had a phenomenal year. My roommate also got drafted with me that year. He was the junior college player of the year. And we went to the Junior College World Series in Colorado. It was one of the funnest experiences of my life.
You hung out with some pretty good company over the years, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been blessed. I really have. I've been so lucky. And, losing my father in 1988 when I was 21 was obviously a very pivotal time in my life. And it was a time when I was kind of searching for a role model. Again, I mean, even though my father wasn't there, I still kind of listened to him, but I needed a role model. And I eventually ran into a bunch of different Frank Robinson and Johnny Padres and, Jim Fregosi, and just different guys throughout my career, and different men who turned out to be incredibly influential and very impactful.
And this was about pretty much this exact same time that you ended up playing for Baltimore after spending a little bit of time in that
right
Red Sox farm organization.
Yeah. So my father passed away in January of 88. In September of that year, I got my first call up to the big leagues after I'd been traded to the Orioles. And then I actually made my debut against the Red Sox, which was kind of cool. But yeah, it happened unexpectedly. It happened quickly, and it was an amazing experience. I wasn't ready at that time. And that was probably the biggest thing is I drove home after the season, the 1988 season. I drove back to Colorado, and I remember the 30-hour drive. None of it was, I failed and I did, because I had an ERA close to like 1 billion. And I remember thinking to myself, it's not that I can't do it. I'm just not ready yet. There's things I need to fix. That was my mentality always. And so, over the next couple of years, I transitioned and eventually fixed it, grew up a little bit, and, voila.
You were drafted by the Red Sox organization before being traded almost instantly to the Orioles. What went through your mind during that period of time?
So it was kind of funny. I was in AA in New Britain, Connecticut, playing for the Red Sox, and there was a rumor going around it was at the trading deadline in 88. And there was a rumor going around that the Red Sox were interested in Mike Boddicker, who was a starting pitcher for the Orioles. And, we had a really talented young staff in New Britain AA. And so we were talking that one morning about, hey, I wonder if one of us is going to get traded. And we predicted, and I'll never forget it. We predicted everybody in the room but me. And that night, as I was walking out to pitch the second game of a doubleheader, I passed by the TV in the clubhouse, and on the bottom it said, the Baltimore Orioles and the Boston Red Sox have made a trade. Boston has sent Brady Anderson and minor league pitcher Curt Schilling. That's how I learned about the trade. And I was like, whoa, that's me. And so I ended up flying to Seattle the next day. I flew to North Carolina or Florida because the Charlotte team was the AA Oriole team. I was in Connecticut, flew to Florida to meet the team and pitched. And then spent the final month of the season there before getting called up.
After facing a bumpy road with the Orioles and Astros, you were traded to the Phillies, where your career really took off. You had a trip to the World Series, 3 All-Star appearances, an NLCS MVP, you name it. Was it a change of scenery that helped re-energize you? What happened there?
I don't know that re-energize would be the right word. I think mature a little bit, I guess. This was when you look at the trade to the Phillies, this was my, third trade in 4 years. And, I never looked at it as someone doesn't want me. I always looked at it as somebody does. And, my career turned around literally the day I got dealt to Philadelphia when I flew down to Miami to meet the team in the final day of spring training, where they were supposed to play an exhibition game. And I threw a bullpen. And when I was throwing the bullpen, my new pitching coach, Johnny Padres, was standing there, and it took him all of about 20 minutes to change my mentality for the rest of my life. And I walked out of that bullpen feeling like I could get Babe Ruth out blindfolded. And it was nothing more than just the way he talked to me. And everything started to change then. And he was the catalyst and the reason. And when I look back on my career, I would not have had the career I had were it not for Johnny Padres.
Can you share kind of some of the advice that he passed along, or
he was just really positive. And so one of the first things he said as I started to throw was, the first thing he did was he said, listen, let's get rid of the sinker. And I was like, what do you mean? Because I was a heavy sinker ball pitcher. And, I threw in the 90s and all of the things that went with that. And he said, you throw too hard to throw a sinker. And I was like, okay, it didn't make a lot of sense to me, but okay. And then, so I started throwing again, and at literally every pitch, he would just be like, oh my God. And it was not forced. And he was talking to Jim Fregosi, our manager at the time, and as if I wasn't there. And it's one of those conversations where you think, well, hey, dude, I'm standing right here. And he was like, this is not a reliever right here. This is a starter. This is a top of the rotation guy. And I believed it all. And I bought into it. And so from that minute forward, I wanted to be a starter and all. And about a month and a half later, I got into the rotation and never looked back. And I made my first start against the Houston Astros, who had traded me, and I threw 6 shutout innings, and I had a phenomenal season. And I look back on, I made 26 starts. I threw 10 complete games, 3 or 4 shutouts, and we were a horrible team. And I just it was my coming out party. And after that, I believed I was that guy.
In 2000, you were traded to the Arizona Diamondbacks, where you were part of a dynamic pitching rotation with Randy Johnson. You would win the World Series in 2001 and win the World Series co-MVP with Randy Johnson, which was the first in World Series history. How special was your time in Arizona?
Well, now remember, I grew up in Arizona, so getting traded back there was exciting as hell. And I still believe that the 2-year run RJ and I put together was unprecedented. I mean, we were as advertised, and it was fun. It was fun when you're on the mound and it goes in. Well, I'll tell you, when you're on the mound and you're going to throw a fastball to a fastball hitter, and the hitter knows it, and everybody in the stadium knows it, and you still do it, it's fun. It's dominating, and for 2 years, I think he and I were as good as any two pitchers had ever been. You know, I think we won 90 some game. We won 90 games. He had two. I mean, I won this. If the Cy Young was voted on and ended September 1st, I would have won both. He turned around and had monster Septembers in both years to rightfully win the Cy Young. And I finished second, which was, that was okay. I mean, it was just a phenomenal period of time. And it was so fun and exciting to go to the park, just knowing mentally I was confident and, all the things that went with that. And, when I always say as a starting pitcher, you want to be the kind of starting pitcher that hitters know you're starting Friday, their Friday game on Monday. And I felt like I got myself to that place, and that was that was enjoyable.
Yeah, and I don't think it hurt too many people's feelings that, you won that one title against the Yankees either.
Well, it never did. If you think about it, I got very lucky. I mean, 1993, Joe Carter hits the walk-off home run. It's one of the most memorable World Series ever. 2001, certainly one of the most memorable World Series in history. And then 2004, another one. I played in three of the most iconic moments in the history of the game. And, that's why we talk about I'm blessed. I've been I've always said baseball owes me not a thing. I could spend my whole life giving back to the game, and I still wouldn't give what it gave to me and what it did for me.
Yeah, that was a heck of a run. And yeah, like I said, especially against the Yankees. And
well, and remember, they were going for 4 in a row. Mm-hmm. They had won. They were the last real true dynasty, I think. And you're looking, they won at 98, 99, 2000. They won it 96, 90. I mean, they were just ridiculous. And they were, then you had 9/11 and all the things that had happened around that. And it was just a really unique and very significant moment and amazing experience.
Yeah, and especially, you see like basketball teams, going for three-peats, like Jordan's Bulls.
Yeah.
Kobe's Lakers, and even in football with Tom Brady winning back-to-back and a year off and having those dynasties. But baseball is probably the hardest sport to even make it back to the World Series, let alone have a run.
I mean, you look at the schedule. I mean, there's a reason. I think the hardest postseason to get through is hockey by a long shot, but the hardest season to get to the postseason is baseball. You're talking 162 games in 180 days. Well, actually, you're talking about 190 games in 210 or 12 days when you get back there in spring training. It's intense. It's as physically demanding from a peak performance perspective as anything. I know Deion Sanders, Brian Jordan, both were incredibly good NFL players. Both of them said that managing the major league schedule is way harder than playing in the NFL. Because every day you had to be, you were facing a John Smoltz today and Greg Maddux tomorrow and Tom Glavine. You had to be a peak performer at less than 100%, and that's hard.
A trade in 2004 to the Boston Red Sox, where you were reunited with their old Phillies manager Terry Francona, and another great pitcher staff with Pedro Martinez. He helped snap the curse of the Bambino, ending an 86-year drought to win the World Series. How crazy was that year?
Well, first off, the curse was nothing more than a curse of talent or lack of. I mean, that was a mentality that had been written about and created off the field. But it was affecting people on the field. I can remember hearing Kevin Millar talk about in 2003, he didn't want the ball hit to him in the end of the game because he didn't want to be the next Bill Buckner. And, I come from things the exact opposite way. When I got traded, I literally did have a choice. I could have gone to Boston or I could have gone to the Yankees because they were kind of waiting in the wings if this Boston thing fell through. And ultimately, the question was, what did I want to do? Did I want to go to New York and be a part of the 27th and 28th and 29th World Series titles? Because I knew I could help them get to the World Series and be a part of that. Or did I want to go to Boston and do something that no one had ever seen before? That seemed more exciting to me and more of a challenge. And I wanted the challenge. And so Boston it is, and Boston it was. And coming here, like I said, I came up with a slogan that year and it kind of stuck with us, which was why not us? And that was a serious question. And I said it in the club, why not us? Why can't we be the world champions? There's no reason other than reasons that we self-inflicted. And it worked out, and it was insane. That last 10 days from being down 3-0 to being, literally look at it. We went from 3-0 to world champions in literally less than 2 weeks. And it was insane. I can't even begin to describe the attitude after the 19-8 drubbing, and then the attitude after Keith Folk flipped the ball to Doug Minkiewicz and we won it all. It was just, talk about your highs and lows.
So how painful was it playing with an injured ankle, which led to the bloody sock game against the Yankees to force Game 7?
It was painful when I thought about it. Most of that was just mentally trying to keep your head in the activity. And for me, I'd been playing with the injured ankle all year. I heard it in spring training, and I'd been getting injections the entire season. And it was painful to a degree, but that was manageable. And then in the playoffs, the tendon that was painful actually tore in half, and that was a bit of a challenge because I got my butt kicked in Game 1, and because I just couldn't physically pitch. And after some Dr. Frankenstein sort of experimentation with Dr. Morgan, I got Game 6, and that was when I was exposed for the first time to my strength and my faith in God. And it was just an incredible, almost indescribable experience going through that game. Because I can tell you this, there were 55,000 people in the stadium. There were millions of people watching. Nobody on the planet was more calm than I was. I was absolutely, my heartbeat was probably 60 beats a minute, and my pulse was probably just as healthy as could be, because I wasn't scared and I wasn't nervous. I was competing. And, when I prayed that day before the game, I just I didn't pray to win or to do anything specific. I just prayed to be able to compete. Because in my mind, if I could compete, then the chips would fall where they were supposed to fall. And I did. I competed. And I was there's so many times during that game where in my mind, I had some sort of thought that made me smile and laugh about, just what I was experiencing. And to go through that was amazing. And then, for us to get Game 7 was over before it started. And to know in Yankee Stadium we were going to do something. It was almost kind of why I didn't want the Astros to win the other day, because I didn't want anybody else to have done it. But it's funny because no one will ever take away from 04. But it was a special time.
Hell, Jimmy Fallon made a movie out of it. That's how big of a season that was.
Well, let me tell you a little story about that. So at the end, the original fever pitch was Boston losing the World Series. And when we came back, they rewrote the end of the script and we won the championship. They had to rewrite the end of the movie. Well, they filmed the end of the movie. If you watch the end of the movie, they're literally on the field with us when we won. And I remember looking over and going, what the hell is Drew Barrymore doing here? Like, I had no idea. I remember seeing her. I remember seeing Jimmy Fallon. I was like, okay, why are they out here with us? And then it turned out
watching the game on TV, it was showing them on the field and in the stands, hey, we're just
we were
the game.
What are they
down there celebrating with you guys? So
it was a pretty amazing experience, especially considering Jimmy Fallon's a Yankee fan. So that was even better after I heard that.
In 2007, you had some injuries, but still had postseason success, helping the Red Sox win the World Series once again at the expense of our Colorado Rockies. Even with the success, how tough was that season for you personally with some of the injuries?
So the season was hard. I mean, I was on and off injured. My arm was I was having some serious arm issues, and I was bouncing around. I kind of was along for the ride that year. I didn't have a lot to do. Excuse me, with the team. Winning the division. I think I ended up like 9-7 or something like that. But I almost had my only no hitter that year, which was kind of weird. But in the postseason, I got my 3 starts or 4 starts. We won 3 of my games, and so I helped do that. But I was more enjoying watching Josh Beckett be Josh Beckett that year, and watching John Lester come back from having cancer, and Dustin Pedroia and Jacoby Ellsbury. That was a fun team. That was the first World Series, I think, in the first postseason that I ever kind of sat back and tried to enjoy a little bit, and knowing that I wasn't going to be the driver. The staff was following Josh and his lead, and that I think so if you remember, your Rockies came into the postseason having won 22 of 23 games, and we knew before the World Series that they probably couldn't win a game. Because they didn't have the pitching. They didn't just like the Cardinals in 04. We had an offense that you had to make our hitters swing and miss, and they didn't have any guys on there. Their Jeff Francis was their quote unquote power pitcher, and he wasn't a swing and miss guy, and they didn't have anybody that could make us swing and miss. And so our offense was going to just be relentless. And it worked out. They had won 22 of 23, but that was it, because they didn't win another one after the World Series started. So it was nice. It was a great way. When I look back on it, I made my last pitch of my career that year. My last pitch was in a World Series game that we won. So you can't end on a much higher note than that.
No, you can't. If I'm not mistaken, you threw game 2 there in Boston, and then the last 2 came to Colorado, and we actually went to game 4 there in Denver, and that's when
good, you got to see us celebrate.
That's when I proposed to Jack's mom. 7th inning.
Really?
4.
So something good for you did come out of that.
So 7th inning stretch, we almost turned things around because Brad Hopp went yard.
Yeah.
Like right after that. So we're like, hell, there's hope. But unfortunately, it just wasn't in the cards for the Rocks. But so we got to see y'all celebrate there on the field, and certainly a great moment for you and Boston. I mean, granted, we got the short end of the stick, and you're probably wondering why I wear a Dodger hat. This was my first team before we got got the Rockies in 93.
Okay.
So,
that makes sense.
I still have some loyalty here, so you know who I'm pulling for in this series. But before we move on, we got a lot of family that are huge Red Sox fans.
Oh, good.
And they have no idea that we're talking to you. So when this airs, they'll
good.
So, Uncle Greg, huge Red Sox fan, even though he lives outside of Houston.
Yeah. Red Sox Nation is global.
Yeah. Cousin Ryan Props dropping his name. He's also there in Arizona. He works for a beer distributor, so he's a good family guy. And then buddy Matt Rollins, he grew up in Maine, so he's been a diehard ever since.
Wow, you got a lot. That's good.
He's also there at Game 4, and then my high school buddy Levi Middleton. So those are some huge Red Sox fans. So I had to give them that out before we move on to
good deal.
The next phase, kind of life after. So take it away, buddy.
So talk to us about life after. What have you been up to?
It's been a bit of a rough ride afterwards. I've had some health issues, and my wife's had some health issues. Our kids are great. They're healthy. We have 4. Our youngest is a hockey player. He's a goalie. He's trying to play in the NHL someday, and so that's kind of athletically where we're at. And I've done a couple different things, but I got to tell you, there's a line in a movie that I love and called Office Space, and it turns out to be true, which is I'm doing absolutely nothing, and it's everything I thought it would be. It's I'm a hobby guy. I model trains and computer games and whatever. I'm filling my time with hobbies, and we're currently in the midst of a battle with my wife, who was diagnosed recently with breast cancer, and so we're going through that. And she is the strongest woman I've ever known, and our kids are phenomenal. They're incredibly good people, which is the thing I'm probably most proud of. Still got to find their way in life, but that's part of the journey, I guess. And so it's been overall. Listen, I'm here today. My wife and my kids are alive and for the most part healthy. So whatever has happened since I retired in 13 years, it's worked out.
Good. And also big thanks to your daughter Gabby for orchestrating and getting this lined up.
Oh yeah. So that's her new job. She manages my off the field activities. And she's understanding why I'm so difficult to deal with. But yeah, no, she's an amazing young lady, and she's handling all of my off the field stuff. So
and just continuing with the dad role and the husband role, the coach role, because Jack here, he's involved in a lot of sports. We're technically still in baseball season, even though granted the whole COVID thing just screwed things up. He's been working out since December on that, but few month hiatus got going. We're actually playing in a Halloween tournament. So, working with him for baseball. He has his flag football tournament Saturday. Then we'll roll into basketball. So a ton of sports. So, a couple questions, because you always hear, like you need to dedicate yourself to that one sport if you want to succeed. And I remember John Smoltz's Hall of Fame speech is like, no, that's total BS. Play them all. So kind of what's some of the advice do you have towards, the kids, and how did you, work with your kids growing up when it came to sports?
Well, first of all, my kids, two things I realized about my kids late. Number one was I wasn't around early on for a lot of the little league stuff. Shonda was the parent, because I was playing baseball and I was the lifestyle. I got to see my family when they traveled on the road with me more in a hotel than I did at home, because I was so committed to preparation that I would leave for a 7:00 game on a night I wasn't pitching. I'd leave for the ballpark around 1 p.m. And get home around 2 p.m. or 2 a.m. and 1 a.m. and they're at school the next day at 7:30. I'm not getting up. I'm not going to bed till 3:30, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, waking up at noon or 1, going back, rinse and repeat kind of a thing. That was the first thing. So Shonda was very influential on that stuff early on. And the other thing was I didn't grow up the son of a celebrity. I didn't grow up the son of an athlete. I didn't take into account the expectations others would have of my kids. And what an incredibly unfair thing for them to have to walk on to the field to. And it affected them mentally, I think, as young athletes. And we live in a small town. Everybody knew who they were. Everybody knew who I was. We've been part of every community. But I ended up coaching my son, my oldest son. I ended up coaching my daughter. Our third child, Grant, he was not an athlete. My fourth one is a hockey kid, so I've just been a hockey dad. But I coach fast pitch girls, competitive travel fast pitch girls softball, and I also coach my sons up through the time he was 13 or 14. And the one thing I always noticed is adults are the only ones that ever screw up kids' sports. Kids are fine. The kids are good. I can manage and discipline and all the other things that go with that. When the parents get involved, they screw everything up. It's every kid thinks his daughter's the next Jenny Finch. Every parent, think his son's the next Mike Trout. And for the most part, none of them are. And it's hard news to break to them. And the sooner I broke it to them, the earlier. My big concern, I always used to meet with parents and say, listen, this is not for you. None of this is for you. This is for them, period. I mean, because I think the athletic field, no matter what you play, is one of the greatest classrooms in life. You can learn every legitimate real life lesson you need to learn about leadership and camaraderie and accountability and sportsmanship and integrity. And you can learn that on a competitive field, in a competitive game. And so I played everything growing up until my dad told me that, it was time to probably get serious about baseball, which was my senior in high school. And, my piece of advice is, living in Colorado, play. You have to play. I can't emphasize that enough. The whole travel team, paying $3,000 stuff, that's some of the most overrated hype in the history. If you're good enough, you will find the game will find you. That it always happens that way. I mean, there's the rare, backwoods kid out of nowhere, but that more times than not, you don't show up at 18 and suddenly you have Mike Trout talent and no one's seen you. People find out. And if you're good enough, you're good enough. And parents, for the most part, facilitate and then get out of the way. Let them, when they're at practice, that's not, you can coach all you want at home. Understand how hard you're making it for your child, though, when they're being coached in two different venues by two different people with two different philosophies. The coach tells them to do it this way, and you can imagine that was challenging for me because, I had a hard time watching practice, whether it be high school or anything, watching these coaches just so fundamentally flawed in how they're trying to teach the game and keeping my mouth shut. I'd be like, hey, you need an assistant coach because I'm here. And no, most of them were threatened by my presence, which I found to be sad and somewhat weird, but get out of the way, let them learn. And here's the thing. If you're making your kid committed to baseball, and you're getting him up and taking him to early practices and taking him to travel teams and making him watch baseball and making him do things at home, you've got an ex-baseball player waiting to happen. And I say that because the second you don't have the influence to make them do something, they'll stop. At some point before the age of 18, they will make a decision that they love the sport and they are good enough to push, or they won't. And I firmly am in the 10,000 hours camp. I look back on my life. There's no doubt I put 10,000 hours into my career before I was a professional, no doubt. And I lived in Arizona and had an advantage. And that was, but the only thing I think parents need to be teaching their kids is respect for authority, playing within the rules, again, being accountable. This is so many kids today, and we're seeing the divisiveness in society, where there are a lot of people who lack accountability intentionally, and that my dad would roll over in his grave if something like that were to happen, or if my kids were to do something like that. And so, my big thing is for parents is if you have the ability to facilitate, do that, and then let them move out of the way, because you can't make your kids want something that you want worse than they do.
Yeah, and that's one thing I'm trying to learn as a parent / coach, because I am an assistant on Jack's team, and I try to just back off as much as I can, but focus more on the other kids more so than my own. And then our little 8-year-old, we're still coach pitch, and
right.
You want to talk about hard is pitching to 8-year-olds when you're trying to take.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I hate that part of it. I called in another righty, and that way I could be out on the field and communicating and coaching them up where I needed to, because that was the worst thing I did to my team is pitching to them, but none of my other assistants wanted to.
Yeah, it's hard. You when you're coaching your own kid, I always talk to my kids beforehand and said, listen, this is going to be different. I said, but you need to understand, I'm going to be 10 times harder and worse to you than I am to the other kids. But I'm doing that because I'm letting you know now that I'm going to push you. And when they see that I can do and say things to you, then they'll know none of them are special. And that, I think that's the important thing and it also helped my kids understand that there shouldn't be any preferential treatment. Everybody should be coached and taught the same way. And that's how you differentiate the good from the bad.
So when you said that you were talking about hobbies, you said you were playing computer games. What types of computer games are you playing?
So I'm a huge two kinds of games. I'm a huge military history buff. That's like my passion in life. So anything military simulation stuff, not like Call of Duty stuff, first person shooters, but like board games, hex based board games, strategy, real time strategy games, games like that. And I love MMOs. I'm a hardcore EverQuest, World of Warcraft. We have a rating guild in World of Warcraft that I'm a part of. But I'm more older games than I'm not into the first person shooters and the fast twitch games. I've been playing a little Among Us, which is kind of cool and fun. And you really realize how big of a liar your kids are playing that game, and you learn to spot their tells too, which is kind of nice. But no, it's kind of it's something that I've enjoyed doing.
I play Among Us as well.
Yep. Are you a good liar?
Kind of.
Yep.
I'm more of one of those detective type of players.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny if you play. I don't know if your dad's played it all, but if you play, the difference between men and women playing that game is astronomical. Like women are so much better at it than men. I think it's because they're incredibly good manipulators. And you'll learn that as you get a little older. But it's a fun game. Very interesting.
Got a couple more, buddy, before we wrap it up. You had?
Oh yeah. So the World Series starts this week. Dodgers versus Rays. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
I think it's going to be very challenging for the Dodgers or for the Tampa Bay Rays to shut down the Dodger offense. And I don't believe it's going to be as challenging for the Dodgers to shut down Tampa's offense. Pitching usually wins in the postseason for the most part. But Tampa Bay's approach to the game is so unique and so different than everybody else's. And Kevin Cash, I played with Kevin. Actually, it's funny because I played with Kevin. I played with Dave Roberts. I played with most of the coaches on both teams. The thing the Dodgers have been trying to figure out is the back end of that bullpen and, which Kenley Jansen's going to show up. And with Tampa, it's just been, they've got a couple young kids that are playing the game at a whole nother level. But it's a very different, it's going to be a very different looking World Series. You're going to see the whole starter and opener thing. And I'm not a big fan of that, obviously. But if I was betting, I would take the Dodgers in 6.
Dodgers in 6.
So let me pull it up. So who was your favorite batter to face?
So I'll take it the opposite. So if I tell you my favorite batter to face, that's kind of like me disrespecting a hitter. I didn't. But there were guys I got out a whole lot more than other guys. I'll tell you the guys I didn't like to face. So left-handed, Todd Helton was my nightmare. I despised that guy facing that guy. And cool fact, he was the last hitter I ever faced in my career in Game 2 of the World Series. But I walked him, which kind of stunk. But Todd Helton left-handed I hated. He was a nightmare for me. And a guy named Derek Lee from the right side was a guy I could not get out. He just owned me. Frank Thomas owned me too. Guys that I got out that I didn't mind facing, Bagwell, Biggio, Eddie Murray, Galarraga, Todd Hollingsworth, different guys that I had unusually large amounts of success against. But any day, every at bat to me was a competitive match, and so. Some I look forward to more than others.
All
right,
two things. One, you just mentioned 3 of the players I have on my MLB The Show 20 Diamond Dynasty team. Craig Biggio is my starting catcher. Eddie Murray, my backup first baseman, and
Backup.
Todd-
Wow.
and then Todd Hollinsworth, who I usually just put everywhere.
Yeah. So Bidge actually was, when I was in Houston in 91, it was Jeff Bagwell's rookie year when he won Rookie of the Year. And Craig Biggio was a catcher at the time before he moved out to center field and second base. And, Eddie was in 1988 when I went to the Orioles. Eddie Murray was on that team. And, next to Mickey Mantle, might be one of the greatest switch hitters that ever lived. Really super guy to me. And Todd Hollinsworth was a guy up until probably the last 10 at bats of my career. I think I struck him out like 29 of 30 at bats. It was like ridiculous. And he ended up getting me in Colorado one night, but I'm impressed with the depth of your team if Eddie Murray's your backup first baseman.
My starter's Edwin Encarnacion.
Okay, see, that makes me ill. That's not you've completely screwed that matchup up. So I guess I'll wish you luck. But Eddie Murray, oh my God, yeah, I don't even know where to go with that. But that's a generation. Eddie Murray is like talking about Ted Williams to me, like for him, I guess. So how old are you, Jack?
11.
Okay, yeah. So Eddie Murray retired like 3 decades before you were born. So yeah, I get it. All right.
One good thing about the whole, coronavirus, if there's any silver lining to this whole deal, this is another conversation for another time. But no sports, but the MLB Network was showing some of those classic games.
Yeah, yeah.
The 88 series, Kirk Gibson, your matchup in 01 with the
It's
Yankees.
funny. Yeah, I've had a couple people like hit me with the emails or tweets like, hey, they're showing you tonight, and it's like some game from 2001 or 19. I'm like, wow, that's okay. But yeah, no, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, so Jack got introduced a little bit to some of the old school baseball.
Back when men were men.
That's right.
Back when starting pitchers didn't tip their cap after 5 1/3.
Oh, I know.
Oh.
Jack's done that a couple times in Little League, going 5 1/3.
Well, that's a 6-inning game, though, right? Yeah. Okay, they're totally different, right? When you leave 2 outs to the bullpen, you can tip your cap. When you leave like 18 outs to the bullpen, just get off the field.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Jack, listen, buddy, this was fun. Seriously, I really appreciate it, and you're pretty good at this. So I very much appreciate the amount of preparation that you did. That anytime I can just tell you as an athlete, when anytime I talk to an interviewer who I know has done their homework, I have a lot more respect for the interview and the process, and a lot more thoughtful with my answers as well. And you'll find that with any athlete that you talk to. So good job on that, bub.
Thank you.
All right.
All right,
ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Curt Schilling. Appreciate you taking the time to meet with us, and pleasure getting to know you even more. And thinking of you all. I know you're going tough times,
thank you,
but we're definitely with you all in spirit, and look forward to connecting with you. Down the road. I think Jack might have a baseball tournament next spring in Arizona,
okay.
So might have to hit you up.
Thank you, guys. You guys take care.
Hey, thanks again.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care, bub.
Bye.
All right, excellent. That was really cool. I want to thank Mr. Schilling for taking some time. Jack, he was very, I don't know the word I want to say, thankful. What is it when you give someone a good job?
Complimentary.
Yeah, he was very complimentary of your preparation. So you did very well getting ready for that. Was that, preparation-wise, was that one of the more fun ones you've done?
Yeah.
Did you know he was as much of a stud before you got digging on him? Like, what was Curt Schilling in your mind before you started digging around on him?
I knew he was a legend, and I knew he played for the Red Sox, but I didn't know that he played for the Phillies. And I thought he also played for a team with like a red and gray logo, like the Diamondbacks, which I got right. But there are also some others.
Nice. Yep. So no, I thought that went That went real well. So we thank you for that. And that was a cool interview. So now let's move on to your fantasy stuff. We were talking earlier. You have stumbled across a website that you like, that you're
Yes.
using for your fantasy, and you're telling me you can use it for fantasy for any league. So, or any sport, I should say. So tell me, what are we looking at here?
So this is called lineups.com, and it shows NFL, NBA, MLB, and NHL. And it shows different things about like news. It shows different depth charts. But my favorite part about it is that they give each player their own rating between the set from 67 to 99. And it's kind of like Madden, but they give a more depth.
Is it an overall? Now, are they rating overall, or do they break down like for baseball, arm strength, speed, bat speed? Like, how do they rank different categories, or is it just an overall rating for the person?
I think it's just an overall rating.
Gotcha.
It
Just
says
how they
that
are
it's-
as a player.
Yeah, it says that it does with the depth chart, the roster, and the snap counts that they get.
So for the amount of play, you're talking for football here now.
Yes.
So for the amount of plays that the snaps they get, how many plays per game they're on the field.
And then you've got the NBA one, which shows. Hold on, I'm pulling it up. But shows the same stuff, but it mainly shows the lineup. And I am gonna go through. And how about this? We're gonna play a game called Do You Agree? And we're gonna go, and I'm gonna look at some of the player ratings that catch my eye, and I'm gonna see if you agree with them or if you disagree with them. All right?
Okay. Why don't you go to the NFL and let's pick a player and then have me try to guess what I think his number is.
All right.
So let's go.
This one's gonna throw you off super hard.
Okay.
Patrick Mahomes.
I'm going to say that Patrick Mahomes should be like a 96.
Most would be saying that he would be a 99, but he's actually a 98.
Okay. See, the only thing I have against him is his size. I know he's short. So I get all the intangibles and stuff, but I could see where they could ding him for that. So let me pull up my team. Let's go Josh Allen. Look up Josh Allen.
All right.
I am going to guess that they have Josh Allen at a 94.
He's not even in the 90s. He's at like 70.
That's why. And they have the other guy at a 98. That's asinine. That's small school bias. They're picking on Wyoming.
Yes. Wait, let me see what his real rating was. It's a 76.
Wow, that's crazy. Okay, who's your quarterback? Who's your fantasy quarterback?
Kyler Murray.
What's his rating? If it's higher than Josh Allen's, that website's garbage.
It's probably going to be.
Garbage.
And yep, this website's garbage. It's 77.
Yeah, no, ridiculous.
It's 77.
Who's pitching tonight? Who started tonight in the games?
Clayton Kershaw and Tyler Glasnow.
Okay, pull those two up. Who's the higher ranked person?
Let me pull it up. They're showing names like Akeem Bostick, DJ Brown. These are some very weird names. I don't know if they've updated this like at all, but I'm trying to see if they've actually done stuff about it. I mean, this is so weird. None of these players have the caliber. What? I think they're just giving the... Wait, here, I'm going to go to Dodgers.
Okay. Yeah, what do they have Kershaw at? He should have two numbers. He should have a regular season number And he should have a postseason number, and his postseason number should be about 14. So that's how
Alright.
many hits he gives up per start.
All right. So according to this, Clayton Kershaw is a 95.
That's wrong. That's wrong. Clayton Kershaw's regular season, maybe. Postseason, no. No.
And then
That's fake.
meanwhile, Rays Tyler Glasnow.
He should be a 99. That guy's a stud.
Nope, 93.
Oh, see, I don't. Okay. Well, we'll look up some more later. We'll do some more with the website. We'll get into a little more fantasy. We already have our guest for next week. It's a face people will recognize. But episode 26 in the books. I think we did well. You did phenomenal. That was a great interview. I am proud of the job you were doing preparing for these. So good job.
Thank you.
Who does it mean more from getting a good job, me or Curt Schilling?
Curt Schilling.
Okay. Right on, man. Well, we'll do it again next week.
That's because he's a legend.
Yeah, that's because he's got all them rings. So
Yeah, he's got
cool.
3 World Series to his belt.
Yeah, that's not a bad deal. Right on, man. We'll see you next week.
Next week.
Later.
Later.